Rise and Elevate is dedicated to sharing the message of failures and successes, but those failures don't have to be negatives. They can be additives. They can be the lessons that we learn that help us to grow and become more.
Absolutely. I think, Tom, you and I talk on the phone more often than not, right? Like a little catch up, what's the game plan for the podcast, each other's lives, etc.
Right.
And we really are connected on a different level where we're able to just express ourselves professionally, personally, and we are cheerleaders for one another, accountability partners, podcast hosts.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that, something that was just spoken about became an idea and then became, a reality.
Good morning, everybody. Tom Fox here with Devin Pinches. And today we are excited to share with you our 12th episode of Rise and Elevate. The idea came as a birth child between Devin and I, and we wanted to share the message of positivity and hope. And we wanted to share successes and failures of our guests, but not just those successes and failures, but the lessons that they can share with us and our audience and how we can help rise above with everyone. And as we like to say, a rising tide lifts all ships. And together, we want the tide to rise and we want to share those messages. So Devin, if you wouldn't mind, give a little intro for our next guest.
It would be my pleasure. So today on Rise and Elevate, we are joined by a mission-driven leader who's dedicated his life to creating meaningful change in South Florida. This guest is the Chief Development Officer at Children's Harbor, where he leads strategic growth and initiatives that really support teens in foster care and families in crisis. A third-generation Floridian with deep roots in Miami, this individual brings more than 2 decades of experience in technology, business development, and relationship building into the nonprofit world. Before stepping into his executive role, he did serve on the Children's Harbor's board of directors, where he helped expand the organization's reach and impact. Beyond his work in nonprofit leadership, this individual is also a recognized thought leader in LinkedIn strategy and lead generation, frequently speaking to both businesses and nonprofit audiences across the country. He holds a degree in information technology from Barry University, as well as being a Sandler Sales certified, and is a proud husband, father of 3, and youth sports coach in his community. Through his journey, this individual has shown that when passion meets purpose, communities thrive. And today we are so excited to dive into his story of leadership, lessons, and legacy. Erik, welcome to Rise and Elevate.
Thanks for having me, Devin. Great to see you, Tom. Appreciate you guys having me on today.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here. And I know that we've reviewed a couple of the things that are important to you that have been part of your journey. But I love the closing statement in your bio, and I wanted to start off with that. So through his leadership, Erik continues to prove that when passion meets purpose, communities thrive and lives are transformed. I think that's powerful. Tell me about how you came up with that kind of mantra.
Well, I've literally have always been just ingrained in the community in terms of kids and helping develop kids and children. Being father of 3, Tom. It's one of the passions I've always had. My mom was an educator, so we've always kind of had it around the house in terms of helping others first and kind of leading that way. So really, and the thing is, it's you're only here for a short period of time, right? So that short period of time, it's best to have the most amount of impact you can. Like I tell my kids all the time, you can always hustle money. You can always, do the things you need to do that put food on the table. But these other smaller things are bigger things. So, but I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, that it means a lot. As a father of boy-girl twins who are now 24, I've been through those trials and tribulations. And certainly as they get older, the relationships change, right? My children are now, my son is part of my team here in the mortgage business at Annie Mac.
Oh, nice.
My daughter's working with the new U.S. Air Force pilots as they come out of their baccalaureate degree and start to fly. And this week, for the first time ever, she's going to get up in one of the T-38 jets. So they continue to amaze me. And the challenges and the things that we face through the years are definitely evolving. But I feel like I've grown with them, right? It's a part of that journey. And you've done a lot with helping children and the group that you work for. So what I'd like to hear in your own words is what does the Children's Harbor do so that we can help share that message?
Well, I appreciate that. So Tom, we've been around since the 90s. It's pretty amazing. We're kind of a hidden gem here in West Pembroke Pines in Broward County. And back when we first started this, it was a handful of gentlemen that actually got together, saw there was this gap in the community when kids were removed because of neglect, abuse, and abandonment. Not only they're going through this unspeakable time in this event, that when these kids are typically placed in foster care after they're removed, a lot of times when they're siblings together as brothers and sisters, they would be put in placements separate from one another. So really the original mission in the 90s was to keep siblings together and have them heal together here at Children's Harbor.
Right.
Fast forward to today, a huge change in legislation. Not going to bore you with Tallahassee and all those things, but the past 8 years, we had to change our model of a group home setting to only primarily help teenagers. So right now, we currently help teenagers from 13 to 17 that have gone through neglect and abuse and abandonment through some form of fashion. So we serve one of the demographic. It's unbelievable the outcomes our staff actually does on a daily basis. So from a roles perspective, I do the philanthropy. I'm out in the community raising money to help our different programs and fill those gaps where needed. And in that sense, so everybody says, "Hey, Eric, you do great work." I got to tell you, it's not me. It's the group. It's our team that's really doing all the heavy lifting. It's the people in the front line that's helping these kids on a day-to-day basis. And these teenagers, Tom and Devin, that come to us, they've experienced more life and more things than all three of us put together, unfortunately. So we come along right alongside them and provide them, one, the love and the unconditional items, but also the other items too of counseling and support and everything you can imagine, trying to provide a childhood back to these teens we have.
So many kids need that love. And there's so many studies that just talk about, the babies when they're born just being held and how that can make a difference in their transformation.
Eric, what I would really like to do is rewind a little bit, right? Because previous to this role, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're involved in technology. Is that correct?
Correct.
So how did we go from technology to now Children's Harbor?
So great question, Devin. And it's an interesting journey. We all have an interesting path we take. And I was in IT since I actually started in the 90s and then found myself selling managed services for almost a decade. We brought on Children's Harbor as a client and then found out they were only 15 minutes away from my house, had no idea they even existed. So about 8 years ago, I landed here taking a tour with our CEO and a few development folks and was just blown away by the impact they were making. And nobody really knew what the impact, nobody really knew what was happening. And I said, what can I do to help? So I started helping the staff and Tiffany, our CEO, really get the word out to get movement on that. And through that whole process, I literally fell in love, and they brought me onto the board for about a year. And at that moment, I think it was about 2020, a little pandemic that was going on. And I was looking for my next opportunity. And there was an opportunity to really help Children's Harbor elevate them to the next level in terms of philanthropy and outreach. And I jumped aboard, and I've been doing what I'm doing now for about 5 years. And it's been an amazing journey.
How many children's lives do you touch on an annual basis
Great question.
with the Children's Harbor?
So we're very, very niche. We are, our organization, we have about 29 teenagers that live with us at any given time. So you're talking probably about 150 kids, but these kids, Tom, again, going back to, their experiences, very, very high level of abuse that these kids have incurred. So it's a very small niche population of the community, but it's a very much needed service we provide these teenagers. So any given time, we have a group home here in West Pines, and it's about say 29 teenagers that live with us. We have a maternity home, a boys home, and a girls home. And this all is in about 8 acres of land here in Pembroke Pines, which Devin had come out and toured with us. And thank you for doing that, Devin. Really appreciate you.
Of course.
Yeah, Devin was really excited about the opportunity to share your message and the impact that you're having on these children's lives. I think it's really important that you identify the ones that need the help, right? Because there's so many stories that you hear about suicide and loss of life for these, the youth that's, tomorrow's, adults. And we really want to try and help shape them in the right way so that they can be an active member of society.
100%. And to your point, Tom, when they do come to us, they need services,
Sure.
Right? And our goal is to help them and provide them and pour into them and just show up right where they're at and give them everything they need.
So you have like a full service of psychology professionals and, helping to develop them from a business perspective or helping them to go next level in education. All of that's in-house?
Yeah, we basically have a life skills department that really pours into them on every aspect of where they're at. Like our young moms, our life skills department is providing them services so they understand what it is to be a great mom and things to do, things not to do. Just recently, probably within the past year, we have a new learning center that's on site, which has been phenomenal and is really filling the gaps with a lot of our kids that, we found, Tom, probably about 18 months ago, we had an educator come in and do an analysis and found that the majority of our kids, probably the average reading level was about second grade. So we knew we had a challenge and a problem.
Right.
And we basically found some funding and things like that. But that's one of our initiatives that we currently now have on campus that helps our kids are currently going to local schools and also some of them that are attending virtual schools. So we're trying to hit all the different angles to really help these kids. And like you mentioned, our goal is to break that cycle, and then they can move on to be contributing, adults in the community.
One of the things that we talked about and shared with us, and you sent us some of the successes and failures, and I love the way you categorized it, because this is exactly the way we think about it. The failures or lessons disguised as those failures, right? And that's what we try to promote is, what do we take away from the things we go through in life, right? Mm-hmm. It helps to define our character. It helps us to grow as individuals. But if we focus on the failures, then we really are only lamenting in what we did wrong, mm-hmm. instead of taking a step back and trying to grow from that. And the one thing that I thought was so interesting about how you struggled from that engineer's mindset and letting go of that and becoming really a leader that promotes teams that execute, not you doing it all yourself. Talk about that for me, because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, back in the day, I had a mentor of mine back when I was in the IT, when I was an engineer, and his name was John Jordan, and he was the CIO for a home builder public company, and it was my first real corporate job. I remember this, Tom, I think it was yesterday, and he pulled me aside. He goes, "Listen, if you want to make the next step in management, you've got to let go. And I'm like, what do you mean you have to let go? I don't understand what you're saying. And he goes, you need to let go and trust others to help you. And that comes along with delegation. And then, that whole dance was so painful and so difficult for me. And I failed. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I failed. It's dealing with people, right? And navigation and so forth with folks. And that was probably one of the biggest learning pieces, I think, with my career, a turning point, so to speak, and helping me really navigate that side. And that's really just, I use that in everyday life now is, you can't do it all yourself. It's impossible to do it all yourself. You need to surround yourself with better people, and you have to be okay with them failing as well, which is very hard for a lot of people.
Sure.
And be invested in their growth and their success. Because really, at the end of the day, if you focus on their success and their growth, it all basically ends up rounding off at the end of the day.
There's a quote by Zig Ziglar that I love. And he says, if you help more people achieve their goals, more people will help you achieve yours. And that's basically what you're talking about, right? You're teaching your people how to fish instead of just giving them a fish.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a go-giver mentality. Deb and I talked about this before. It's great. It's like the piece of giving and wanting to help genuinely and not having no transaction with that. You're not keeping score, so to speak. I mean, we all somewhat in our mind, but the intention is really to help people. Universe feeds exceptionally well to those.
Yes.
I'd like to touch on another point that related to something earlier that both you, Eric, and Tom were saying in regards to when it comes to leadership, personally and professionally, right, is sometimes we have to have those hard conversations, right? And you shared with us that was a setback, a lesson learned, right? So was there a turning point for you that taught you the importance of clarity as kindness rather than, avoiding a difficult conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my communication style is to navigate and be diplomatic and keep things together, even in my position now. But there's certain times you have to be very direct, and especially if you want to have things done a certain way in a certain time frame. But it's kind of, in my mind, it's a re-gearing. But like, there's been instances where, I've had a team where, I had to basically, I put this in a style of, we live in Florida, and Devin, like you and I were chatting, it's very different, right? South Florida, very different. And another lifetime, I was managing different things in a company, and we had clients in Chicago, New York. I love Chicago, New York, because you could be blunt and straight up, and things moved quick, and it was great. When you dealt with clients in LA, and no offense to anybody listening in LA or Miami, but it's different. It's much, much different, right? So again, it's just throttling what you need to do and your personality, communication style to get to the outcome you're looking for. So
I think it's important to be clear, right? That clarity you talk about. And I think in today's world, certainly since COVID and since we went through all of that, right? The whole concept of mental health and, how someone perceives what we say and how we say it is certainly important, right? And I know through the years, I've really had to be cognizant of how I address certain situations. But avoiding that situation never makes it better. And as you use the word fester, right? We don't want things to fester because, as something that I took away from Marcus Aurelius' book, The Meditations, which I highly recommend, right? If you're into, philosophy at all, Stoicism is something that's been helping to shape my later years, right? And it's about control the controllables. And we can always control how we respond to what people do and what they say, right? And by being direct and not really worrying so much about feelings, but being cognizant of how we approach that, it really can make a difference, because the longer we let something go, the less effective that communication is when we do address it.
100%, Tom. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And here's the thing, it's not about us, right?
Right.
It's actually, you're doing a disservice to the person that you're trying to mentor. Because
Right.
if you're not direct with them, just like you and I or Devin or anybody, I would rather have feedback right away, right now, so I can get better. And I think high achievers, people that really always want to have a growth mindset, want to get better, have that, hey, you know what, if I'm doing something wrong or if I can get better, tell me immediately. But then, I teach it to my kids all the time. My son's 20 and it's amazing. He's light years. I wish I had what he had right now in his head at 20. But it's so cool because he's super direct, and he's like, even call me, I'll say, hey, you should probably think about this next time. I'm like, wow, he's actually, it's kind of flipping. It's kind of changing, and helping me, not to say he's mentoring me, but he's like, giving me tips like, hey, you might want to think about, taking this up, this thing a little bit differently. So yeah, 100%, Tom. And that, to your point, it's great.
Introspection, right? That metacognition that we talk about thinking about how we think. And that's one of the things that I love about, you shared with us, successes and failures. And we're not necessarily trying to pick at you on any of them, right? But we appreciate your introspective approach to the things you've gone through. And that's what we try to share, right? That message of helping someone identify the problems in their lives or the shortcomings or the failures, and saying, okay, take a step back. That's only a failure if you don't learn something from it, right? It's not a failure, it's a learning opportunity. And that's something I share with my kids all the time. What can we take away from it, right? We can either lose or we can learn. Mm-hmm. And I choose to learn. Now, I still have, Eric, I'll tell you, I will admit I'm still a work in progress. I've got a long way to go. But I appreciate that journey, right? I mean, everybody has to share in their own life's journey. And like you said earlier, and I love this because, if you look at the Big Bang or the history of time, we are but a grain of sand, right? In that time, that window, we only have so much time. Yeah. And the value of what we do, and in your case, helping children to become functioning members of society and adults, is so powerful. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I'd love an opportunity. We come down to Florida every year with our drag racing team. So we'll be down in the Gainesville area in late February, early March next year. And I'd like to set up some time for Devin and I to come and meet with some of your staff and facility and help to promote what you're doing on a different scale.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So if somebody was interested in supporting the Children's Harbor, how would they do so? What would you be looking for in support?
That's a great question, Tom. I appreciate you asking. Easiest way to find out what we do and how to support us is going to our website, which is www.childrensharbor.org and org. And that's the easiest way to find out how you can support us. There's a lot of different ways that people can get involved, Tom. People want to, sponsor events. Obviously, that's an easy one. We have 3 really great events you can find on the site. There's another one that's really, I would say probably anybody can help, and it's called the 10 Spot. And most people, you and I get coffee probably every week at some place, getting coffees with, colleagues and so forth. But it's not just you and I, it's a multiple of everybody together. If everybody were to give $10 a month, that would change our kids' lives here at Children's Harbor exponentially. So I encourage everybody, that's called the 10 Spot. I'll share that with Devin and you, Tom, and that link. It's very, very easy. $10 a month is really going to change, give a childhood back to the kids we serve.
So we'll include a link when we use social media. We use Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to share this message, right? And we're trying to, last guest was from the Freedom Service Dogs of America. And we just had our annual golf outing we call Fetch the Ball. Nice. In Burlington County at the Burlington County Country Club. And it's an amazing event. And we got to see 2 recipients of these service dogs and how it changed their lives. 2 veterans who went from being on the verge of suicide to being family members, raising children, being back in the community. And the one young lady who presented and told us her story, it absolutely changed everything about the way she thinks. And how is it that a dog, right, with special training and special powers can turn someone's life around? And it's all just about caring, right? You guys show these children that care. You show them the love and support that you can only give from someone that is passionate about helping others.
Yeah. So Tom, you'll have an opportunity, both of you guys. I don't think, Devin, you didn't meet Charlie, our emotional support dog.
No.
So we have a golden retriever that's actually in administration. That it is the owner is our COO. But I can tell you, it is amazing to see these kids and how they light up. You know, I don't have my it's all blurred, but I have a couple guitars back here, which the kids come in and they play on the times, but it's nothing compared to the dog. As you can imagine, Tom. Nothing, golden retrievers. I'm a big dog guy, so
I am as well.
The dog is, I got a golden doodle at home, and I bring them in and they play, and it actually wreaks a lot of havoc in admin. But we try not to do it during Christmas because the tree ends up, getting this. Oh yeah, so we have to kind of like throttle it a little bit. You can imagine the energy in this admin.
Yes, I have a 6-year-old Labradoodle, and the Labradoodle is just an amazing dog. But it's interesting watching them go through their growth phases too. And we struggled a lot with him being on the leash or going and being around other settings, like, in a park or something like that, until I took him off leash and ran away from him on a mountain bike. I took him with me and I said, "You're on your own. You do your own thing." And he chased after me like, "Where's my human?" And since then, we've had this bond. And, my girlfriend's children talk about, why does Archie love Tom so much? And I don't know what it is, but I take him on adventures. And I think bringing your dog or the other dog, there creates a sense of adventure for the dog, but it creates a sense of peace, wellness, and kind of grounding, right, that the animals provide. I think that's a powerful message. And, lovers of pets certainly, will tell you that it calms them or soothes them. So, I can see how that could make, a wonderful impact.
Tom, there's something that you don't know about Erik is I think every time I've seen you, Erik, minus like this time, he always has a shirt with a QR code on it. And the first time I met him, he just went, "Scan me." I was like, okay. And I scanned him and it popped up with your link tree, I believe it's called, and it has all these different links, upcoming events. And I just thought it was such a fantastic way, number one, to break the ice, right? Because we were at a networking event in Davie, Cooper City. But then number two, like, hey, where do I find that information? How do I contact you? Scan the QR code. And it has just brought me so much joy to this day. But Erik, I totally thought you were going to wear the shirt today.
No, I had a meeting this morning on East Fort Lauderdale. So it was a different clientele, donor-ish,
Right.
I had to suit up a little bit. I had to suit up, so he probably wouldn't have minded it, but,
no, but that's a great little tidbit.
It was fantastic. But, Erik, as we're coming to close here, a question I have for you is, when you think about your legacy, right, as a leader, a father, a community builder, what do you hope people say about the impact that you've made?
You know what? I think it's just touching lives and organically and authentically, really just helping people. Really, I think that's really the whole thing. And not only me, it's just instilling that into my kids.
Right.
It's really my legacy is them, really. So anything I can instill into them in terms of helping others, really, that's where it's at. Have to flip that baton over to them to let them, do the work on the next level.
Right.
But really, it's hard nowadays, especially with the social and everything else is all about me. But I am very hopeful, and I actually see a lot of this change within my kids and other people, that you can see the cycle changing, and people are really, really looking to help others at the younger age. My son being 20, so beyond his time, it's unbelievable. Not just with what he's doing personally, but how he sees things and helps people, and relationship building. And I'm looking back and I'm like, and it's what you really want. What you really want is for them to outperform you, right? To just kill it, to blow it out of the water. And that's my hope in terms of what I'm doing. So
That's awesome. Right along with that, Eric, we generally like to share an inspirational quote as we come to our close. And I'm going to share one with you from the Dalai Lama. And it says, the more we care about the happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being.
I love that.
And I think that's something that people miss, right? It's not so much that you do for someone else, but if you allow that, if you open up and you give your time and your energy to someone else, if you can reflect on your day and you can look back and you say, I gave of myself, I gave of my time. That's a comforting thought, because it helps to settle some of these voices that we have inside of us. And I think that's, positive self-talk is one of the things that I'm sure that you share with the children that go through your group, right? Because what you say to yourself matters. Kindness matters, right? These are the things that when you're treated bad, you think that you should treat someone else bad, and that helps you to lift up. But that's exactly the opposite, because you never get a chance to redo that moment, but you can learn from it, right? And that's a message. So I want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, your stories. And it's been inspirational what you're doing for the children of Southern Florida. And at some point next year, Devin and I would like to be able to come down and share a little bit of time with you guys and promote this even more.
thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Elevate, the podcast where we talk mindset, moves, and motivation to level up your life and business. Keep rising.